Before she boarded the flight, 3 separate people told her not to go. A colleague said the heat would be unbearable. A family member forwarded her a decade-old travel advisory about petty crime in Kuala Lumpur. A friend who had never left Europe told her, with complete confidence, that Malaysia was not a safe destination for a woman traveling alone. She noted all 3 warnings. She boarded the flight anyway. And what she encountered on the other side of that 14-hour journey was not a contradiction of the warnings. It was a structural indictment of the people who gave them. The warnings about Malaysia are a specific category of misinformation. They are not malicious. They are not fabricated. They are something more difficult to correct. They are outdated impressions held with genuine conviction by people who formed them from sources that were themselves outdated, and who never had a reason to update the information because they never went. The gap between what the world believes about Malaysia and what Malaysia actually is in 2024 is not a small gap. It is a generational gap. And this video is going to measure it precisely. Welcome to Shifted Perspective. We look past the mainstream narrative to find what the world gets consistently wrong about the countries it thinks it already understands. We publish 3 documentaries every week. Hit subscribe and the bell right now so you do not miss a single one. Now let's establish exactly what was warned and exactly what was found. This video is not a rebuttal of every criticism ever made about Malaysia. There are real structural challenges here. Income inequality across ethnic and regional lines, press freedom constraints, the unresolved tension between constitutional secularism and creeping religious legislation in certain states. Those conversations exist and they matter. What this video is pushing back against is something different. It is the specific category of warning that travels most widely about Malaysia. The crime narrative, the infrastructure narrative, the heat and dysfunction narrative, and it is testing those warnings against the ground-level structural reality of the country in 2024. The first warning is the one that travels furthest. Malaysia is not safe. Snatch theft, scams, areas to avoid, warnings about Kuala Lumpur street crime passed between travelers and expat forums with the confidence of eyewitness testimony. The Global Peace Index 2023 ranked Malaysia 20th globally, above France, above the United States, above the United Kingdom. The Numbeo Crime Index, which aggregates reported and perceived crime data from residents across 142 countries, ranks Malaysia consistently in the low to moderate crime band, comparable to Portugal, lower than most of southern Europe, and significantly lower than any major American city its size. Kuala Lumpur's violent crime rate is not a developing world statistic. It is a mid-tier European city statistic, inside a skyline that most European cities cannot match. The woman who boarded that flight despite the warnings walked the streets of Bangsar at 11 at night. She took the MRT alone at midnight from Bukit Bintang after dinner. She sat at an open-air mamak table in Chow Kit, the neighborhood most frequently cited in those forum warnings, and drank teh tarik while a retired teacher at the next table explained to her, unprompted, the history of the surrounding streets. Nothing happened. Not because she was lucky. Because the statistical reality of those streets, stripped of their reputation, is that nothing usually happens there either. The second warning is about infrastructure. Malaysia is underdeveloped. The roads are bad. The internet is slow. The hospitals are not where you want to be in an emergency. This is the warning that collapses most completely on contact with the evidence. Malaysia's Klang Valley MRT network, 57.7 kilometers of double-tracked, fully automated driverless urban rail completed in under 5 years, runs with a published on-time performance of 99.6%. The base fare starts at RM 1.10. The platforms are air-conditioned, sealed with full-length glass screen doors, and accurate to the second on their digital departure boards. The country's median fixed broadband speed, as of 2024, sits at approximately 130 megabits per second, faster than Germany, faster than France, faster than most of the countries whose citizens were issuing infrastructure warnings about Malaysia from their own underperforming connections. Private hospital care in Kuala Lumpur at facilities like Pantai Hospital and Gleneagles is delivered at Joint Commission International Accreditation Standards, the same benchmark used to certify hospital quality in the United States and the United Kingdom. A specialist consultation costs between RM 150 and RM 300. The same consultation in London's private healthcare market costs between £200 and £400. The outcome data for cardiac surgery, oncology, and orthopedic procedures at Malaysia's top-tier private hospitals is not a developing world outcome dataset. It is a dataset that routinely benchmarks above regional peers and, in several categories, above comparable Western institutions at a fraction of the price. The third warning is environmental. The heat, the humidity, the pollution. The idea that daily life in Malaysia is a physical ordeal that Westerners are not equipped to sustain. This is the warning that reveals most clearly the architecture of assumption behind all the others. Kuala Lumpur is a city that has engineered its built environment around its climate rather than against it. The covered pedestrian walkways connecting MRT stations to surrounding buildings. The underground retail corridors linking commercial districts. The mall culture that functions not as consumer access but as the city's air-conditioned communal living room. The Mammoth open 24 hours with ceiling fans and plastic chairs that have been the city's primary social infrastructure since long before any expat forum existed to warn against them. A person who lives in KL does not fight the heat. They navigate around it through an urban infrastructure specifically designed to make that navigation seamless. The people issuing heat warnings about Malaysia are the same people who have never spent a July in Rome or an August in Tokyo. Cities whose climatic conditions are broadly comparable and whose tourist reputations absorb no equivalent warning. The dissonance is not climatic. It is cartographic. Malaysia sits on the wrong side of a mental map that was drawn before most of the people reading this were born. Now let's bring this to the ground level. Because the structural data tells one story, and the daily lived experience confirms it in a register that no index can fully capture. The woman who ignored the warning spent 4 months in Kuala Lumpur. She found an apartment in Mont Kiara for Rm 2,800 per month. 2 bedrooms, a pool, a gym in a neighborhood with 3 international supermarkets and a direct MRT connection to the city center. She opened a bank account in 3 days. She registered her freelance business through the SSM digital portal in under a week. She saw a cardiologist, not a GP, a cardiologist, 5 days after her initial consultation, paid Rm 220 for the appointment and Rm 85 for the diagnostic scan, and left with results the same afternoon. She ate extraordinarily well every day of those 4 months at a cost that, in the city she had previously lived in, would not have covered a single restaurant meal per week. When she left, she did not leave because the warnings had been right. She left because her visa category required it. She has since restructured her work to return. Not because Malaysia is perfect. It is not. Its political landscape carries genuine complexity. Its treatment of certain minority communities involves real and documented tension. Its press environment involves real constraints that any honest account must include. She returned because the gap between what she was told and what she found was not a matter of degree. It was a matter of kind. The warnings she received were not slightly wrong. They were describing a country that, in the form being described, no longer exists, and may never have existed in the form in which it was described. That gap, between inherited perception and structural reality, is the only thing this channel has ever been about. Now I want to hear from you. If you were warned about Malaysia before you came, or before you almost came and didn't, tell me the specific warning you received and the specific thing you found instead. Not the general impression. The precise contrast. The exact moment when the warning and the reality occupied the same space and the warning lost. Drop it in the comments. That thread is the documentary this video cannot contain. Subscribe. Share this with the person who sent you the warning. 3 documentaries every week, and the next one goes somewhere this space has not been taken yet. We will see you there.